Good morning. Welcome to Jump River Electric's 84th annual meeting. We are connected virtually with our Hayward office where we have directors and members at the Hayward office. Voting is now closed. I ask that all members who served in the military will stand and be recognized. Thank you for your service. Now, if everyone would stand for our national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The absentee ballots we received from the mail on April can only be counted if they were returned to the office by the deadline, April 24th and April 29th. The only ballots that we collected and counted today are those turned in during registration. Absentee ballots we received in the mail will not be used during the meeting. The meeting day ballots are available at the registration and are the only ballots that can be collected today. Drawings will take place at the end of the meeting. A $25 energy credit will be for registered members in attendance at the Ladysmith meeting or the Hayward remote meeting. Will automatically be applied to your next energy bill. Attorney Niles Bergen will act as parliamentarian for today's meeting. Joe Lawrence will report on registration.
Good morning. Joe Lawrence, District 3, Secretary Treasurer. I was just informed that we have 89 registered at Jump River Electric's 84th annual meeting. This is a sufficient number to constitute a quorum and hold an official meeting of the membership. And I think Vicki said there was like 31 or 32 people in Hayward that are participating too. Thank you.
Niles will address the crowd now.
Thank you, Myra. Actually, Joe, thank you too. That's music to my ears to hear that we have a quorum today after 2 years without reaching a quorum. So thank you all for attending this morning. We have received an affidavit from our statewide association, Wisconsin Electric Cooperative Association, that on March 31st, they mailed notice of this meeting to all members of Jump River Electric. And that satisfies the requirement in the statute and in our bylaws for notice of the meeting. We're required to give notice not more than 30 days, nor less than 7 days before the meeting. So we do have proof that requirement has been met. In terms of the rules of the meeting this morning, you should have received copies of them in the tote bag you received at registration, both here in Ladysmith and in Hayward. These were also published in the Energy Co-op News as well. What I'd like to do next is introduce the directors who represent you and oversee the management of the cooperative week in and week out through the year. We have 5 of our directors present here in Ladysmith and 4 in Hayward. I'm going to, if those in Ladysmith will stand as I read your names, please. District 1 is represented by Jane Wright from Shelby. District 2, Myron Brooks, Hillman. District 3, Joe Lawrence, Shelton. District 4, Jerry Caro, Ladysmith. And you're in the dark there, Jerry. And District 5, Bill Van Doren, here in Ladysmith.
Jerry's never in the dark.
And in Hayward, if our Hayward directors will rise as I call your name for the members in attendance there. District 6 is represented by Bill Amory. District 7 by Jason Weaver. District 8 by Wally Crook. And District 9, Sandy Sharp. So thank you all for your service to the co-op, and we could give them a round of applause, please. And then the hardest working folks, among the hardest working folks this morning, in addition to the chair of the meeting, are our tellers, our election inspectors. And since Hayward is also a formal site for the in-person meeting this morning, we have election inspectors present there as well as here in Ladysmith. In Ladysmith, and if you all would each rise, Gene Ludwigson, Doug Dykus, Jerry Geisler, and Darrell Valley. And in Hayward, and if you all would stand as I call your names also, in Hayward, Kathy Overman, Dolores Brandt, Jackson Reeder, and Richard Gilbertson. So thank you all for your work. The director nominees this year are the directors in district, the incumbent directors in District 2, 7, and 8. Are we going to, they're all uncontested races, but we're going to invite each to speak or not? So again, the nominees, Myron Brooks from Gilman for District 2, Jason Weaver from Hayward, District 7, and Wally Crook and Hayward from District 7. And have we had a chance to count all of the meeting day ballots, or they haven't been tallied yet? Okay. So we'll come back in just a few minutes after the chairman's report and report on the election results. I know you're on the edge of your seats with 3 uncontested races this year, but it is nevertheless a very important part of the work of the cooperative, and an important feature that distinguishes us from our investor-owned and municipal neighbors, that board that oversees the management of the cooperative comes from you, the membership, and is elected by you, the members, on the basis of 1 member, 1 vote. So we'll report that we'll ask Jean as the chair of the election inspectors to report on the results in just a few minutes. Myron?
Welcome, members. My name is Myron Brooks. I'm a director in District 2, and I'm currently the board chair. This year went somewhat smoother than the last couple of years. The board is no longer socially distanced and have moved into the new boardroom. We do training classes, meetings, and talk to the attorney all virtually, saving the co-op money and not paying for hotel rooms, traveling, and meals. Last spring, the board got a big surprise. Our general manager announced he was leaving. He wanted to return to Washington for personal reasons. The board hired an interim manager, Mike Schaefer, the retired manager from Taylor Electric, said he would help us out. The board started the search. We advertised nationally and we got excellent responses. We interviewed 6 virtually and narrowed it down to 3. The 3 candidates were interviewed personally. The board selected our own in-house candidate, Kurt Harris, a 16-year employee and currently our operations manager. If you notice unexpected credit on your energy bill, it could be the capital credits from Dairyland and JREC. Just as you are a member of JREC, JREC is a member of Dairyland Power Co-op. Dairyland Power pays dividends back to Jump River Electric, and Turner Jump River Electric reimburses back to its members along with their capital credits, which amounts to $678,205. In closing, the board and employees want to thank Mike Schaefer for helping us out. It was a pleasure working with a manager with his experience and professionalism. Thank you, Mike, from all of us. Now Mike Schaefer will give the manager's report.
Good morning, everyone. Hoping everybody can hear me well, and that hopefully the people up in Hayward can hear me as well. I know they can see they can at least see our slides here, and sometimes they can see the crowd here as well, I believe, but unfortunately we can't see them, but when we get to the question and answer period, they'll have an opportunity to also ask questions. We'll be able to hear them. So with that, first I want to say it's been my pleasure to actually serve this cooperative. 2003 I became a member, and I sat out in the crowd with you for a number of years. 3 years ago I retired at Taylor Electric, and I figured, well, I'm all done with having to make presentations at the annual meeting, but here 3 years later, here I am again, so I guess I can handle it one more time. Anyway, as I said, it's been my pleasure. This board has been great to work with. They're asking questions and giving feedback all the time, and I believe you're in good hands with the board you've got in place, and I would be remiss if I didn't say the same about the employees. This has been just a pleasure for me to work with this group of employees. They, from the group up in Hayward, who handles things up there so well, and the group down here in Ladysmith and this area, just a real pleasure to me. And I've pretty much basically found that throughout cooperative world, that people are that way. So just a little bit about me. When the board asked me about coming to serve as your interim general manager, and like this morning I was sitting at my table having breakfast, looking out at the Chequamegon flowage where I live, looking at all the birds and things, and you see all the ducks out there, and you know why the ducks have feathers, don't you? That's to cover their butt cracks. I came up to meet with the board when they first asked me about this, and to see what exactly they wanted from me, and got some information, and I went home that day and told my wife, well, she asked, how did it go? And I said, well, it's fine. I said, I just have two questions. Will you be able to handle things around home here while I'm up working at Jump River over the next 6 months or whatever it is? Turned out to be a little bit more, but he said, yeah, I can handle that. I said, well, good. I said, will you still love me when I'm old and wrinkled? She said, yes, I do. So anyway, I got a couple of things I'm going to talk about here. And you know this thing's not working. There. Okay. Oh, that was Myron's last slide. So. Okay, so I'm going to cover the financial report a little bit differently. Okay, still not coming up. I'm going to talk a little bit about the broadband strategic item that the board has been working on, and also a little bit about electric rates going forward here. So, first of all, with the financial report, the auditors have completed their report for an examination of the records for 2021. They also did the same in 2020, and they found no adjustments to make. So credit to Lori and all the financial crew at Jump River Electric for doing a fine job on the records. The financial statements that you see in your annual report, and what you see here is graphic that I'm putting together, have all been audited, so you're aware of that. Okay, first graph I'm putting up here is the number of members being served, and you can see that's gone on a steady increase here since I think I got 2014 maybe, or 12, somewhere in there. So we're growing. I believe it's about a little over 100 members per year in recent years, so good growth that way. Our growth in kilowatt hour sales has been rather flat. We've been a few years of downward trends, and a few years we've had some growth, and pretty small numbers overall. I'm just going to have you keep changing those for me because this isn't working. Total assets have grown. You can see a few years ago when the new building was completed, there was an increase in the total assets, and that's pretty much leveled off in recent years between $500,000 and $1 million a year that we're putting into our plan to maintain electric service to our members. Next slide. Member equity. Member equity the red line shows the percentage of equity, and it took a little dip when the building was completed because that big, huge investment required some additional loans to be able to complete that project. But we pretty much stabilized and are looking forward to rebuilding some equity, but overall the numbers are pretty stable. And at the same time, as Myron indicated, we've been able to pay back our capital credits to the members. That's an increasing amount in the last several years here, up to $678,000 in 2021. Operating revenues have gone up slowly and increased slightly. We're up to a little over $15 million. Excuse me, it's $25 million. No, that's 15. Can't read the numbers if they're a little fuzzy right here. Just so I don't step off the stage. Cost of purchase power from Dairyland has actually had some decrease, and the next slide will show that the cost per kilowatt hour of our purchase power has been going down. Now we're expecting some increases, and we know in 2022 there's going to be a slight increase for Jump River Electric. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. Our total expenses less purchase power, this is the local cost, so everything that without having the wholesale power cost in it, you can see we've had a slow, steady increase in those costs as you expect from inflation and cost increases. But the red line on here shows what the rate of inflation has done. So 2021, the rate of inflation has gone up. We know in 2022 now it's continuing to go up. So we've already seen cost increases in our materials and such of 20% and more in some cases. So we're not sure, how that's going to affect our total picture, but hopefully we'll be able to weather the storm. Interest expense, again, has increased a few years ago with the addition of the additional borrowing for the building primarily, but last year there was a decrease. Being able to take advantage of some of the lower interest rates in recent years has helped as well. Next. Margins. The margins from the co-op several years ago were quite a bit more than recently. We've been operating on probably around a little over 4% of the total revenue as our margin. So keeping things pretty lean as far as the margin side. And the margins are what's returned back to the members as capital credits, as you know. I wanted to point out too on here, the lines on here, the red line indicates the annual rate of inflation again. The blue line is the average annual increase of the cost retail price of our electricity to the members. And you can see for the most part, the blue line, the rate that you're paying per kilowatt hour has stayed below that rate of inflation. So kind of a good thing to see. Broadband, one of my favorite subjects recently. This is one of the strategic items that we're kind of looking at on behalf of the board. I just wanted a little bit of a show of hands and a couple questions. This is not a scientific study by any chance, but I want to see how many of you in here have internet service at your home. A good portion of you. How many of you would say you have good internet service at your home? Maybe half or less of those that raised their hand the first time. Who would like to see better internet service at their home? Especially if it's at a better price. Okay. Those are some of the questions the board's looking at as far as broadband. We're looking at it from the mission perspective of the cooperative that we don't want to overbuild or serve anybody that's already got internet service, but we know there's people in the counties that we serve that do not have internet service and are maybe underserved. Maybe they still have old-fashioned dial service that you just have to hit the button on their computer and go have a cup of coffee and come back and see what came back to their computer screen. So we're trying to help improve that situation for all our members as best we can. We're not sure exactly how that's going to go yet. We had one of our national affiliates, the National Rural Telecommunications Cooperative, do a feasibility study on behalf of Jump River Electric. And that study basically came back and told the board that to provide internet service, broadband internet service, with good internet service, quality internet service, would cost basically about $61 million for this cooperative to invest to do that. Not a small task by any means, because at current, this cooperative has about $50 million in total assets. So you more than double the size of this co-op by investing in broadband. So that, we had to stand back now and say, what can we do? So what we've done thus far, we brought some parties together to try to see if there's some solutions. We had a meeting back in early March, we brought together some county representatives, some internet service providers in the area that are serving some of our members. We had school districts related personnel invited. We had some tribal representatives from the LCO, and we also brought in a gentleman from neighboring Taylor County where I live to talk about the solution that they're working on right now and the progress that they've made. So there was a lot of excitement in the room, I'd say. Your board was excited to hear some of this information, and so we're hoping that we've maybe gotten the ball rolling a little bit within the counties. We haven't heard much, but we're planning another meeting in another week or 10 days to bring some of these parties back together and say, what have you accomplished? I forgot, we also invited Dairyland, because part of the transmission system now has some fiber on it, and if we can take advantage of something that they've got there already, why make another investment? So we're trying to formulate a plan. So we'll hopefully have some more information on this and how we might be able to bring some better internet service, especially for those members that do not have any internet or not very good. Because we know it's really important for the members and their children, for the school, right? You need internet to do your schoolwork? Okay. Electric rates, the other item I wanted to touch here a little bit. In our 2022 budget, we said there was going to be no rate increase, but having said that, in the Dairyland budget for this year, they average the rates for all 24 member co-ops, and they said there was going to be a 0.4% decrease in the average rate. Average. Well, that's for those 24 members. And however, for Jump River Electric, we actually are going to see a 2.1% increase, because things change within how that rate is figured. A big portion of where we're seeing the increase is on our summer and winter demand. Now everybody, we have a hotter summer, you like to turn on your air conditioning in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the day, and that's when everybody else is turning it on. We've got a lot of seasonal accounts, and can't blame them when they're at their cabins and things. They want to be comfortable as they are in wherever they live, and so they're turning on their air conditioning as well. So, that in winter, more electric heat, if the winter's cold, that affects our demand costs. So that's a big reason for why we're seeing a 2.1% increase in our wholesale rate. So we're looking for, is there ways we can help reduce our wholesale power costs and at the same time benefit our members? So one of the things we just had to do, you saw in your electric bill in March, there was a power cost adjustment, and that was a pass-through of $82,900 of a charge that came from Dairyland, so we had to put that back through. The board adopted a PCA policy where we'll keep track of our wholesale costs going forward on a month-by-month basis, and we may use that PCA variance from time to time. But in the long run, we're going to want to adjust our whole retail rates to stay in line so there are no big jumps in the future as well. There's also a small 0.7% wholesale rate increase projected for the next year, so we haven't gotten the final results of how that's going to be, how that will affect Jump River's members, but we'll find that out fairly soon. So, a couple of things we're looking at is new rate options for our members. We just talked to the board here earlier this week about a potential time of use rate. A time of use rate will give a lower off-peak rate. So if you have a rate signal to the members saying these times of the day you use power, you're going to pay less. Today you're paying between 10 and 11 cents, maybe a little bit more per kilowatt hour on the average. Off-peak rates potentially could be around 7 cents a kilowatt hour. the other side of the coin with the time of day rate is a higher on-peak rates. So those middle of the afternoon in the summer when it's hot and everybody wants air conditioning, if you're on a time of day rate, you're going to want to avoid having your air conditioner, your water heater, and other things come on. So you can avoid the 25, 30, 35 cent a kilowatt hour rates for those periods of time. And those are based on the price signals we're getting from Darien, the wholesale rates. It's not going to be a rate that's going to work for everybody. We know that. But we're hoping when we get this thing settled, if anyone's interested, you can at least contact our office and get some help in looking at your electric bill and see how you might change your lifestyle. It's intended not to just use the electricity as you are today, but change your lifestyle somewhat and be able to accommodate the on-peak and off-peak hours. So look for that and see if it might help you in the future. Also, with kind of along the same line is an electric vehicle charging rate. You saw the Tesla that Jump River Electric owns right now, and sitting out here. Take a better look at it, talk to some of the employees if you'd like to take a test drive in it too. We have that program set up. With electric vehicle charging, there will be some overnight rates that will, in the late night hours to early morning hours, electric rates are basically dirt cheap. And we're looking at setting up a special rate for charging your electric vehicles. We know some of you are going to have those soon, maybe some of you do already. That's all you hear on TV and advertising all over the place about electric vehicles coming. There will be electric vehicle charger incentives, especially if they're controlled through our load management program with Dairyland Power. So those things are coming down along to going to help you with your electric bills. Is that the end of my slides? Okay. So I guess if there's any questions, we can answer those later. There's a question and answer period, but again, it's been my pleasure to serve you with this great board of directors and these great employees. I'm going to miss it actually, so, so thank you very much.
So welcome everyone. Thanks for taking your time today to come and attend our annual meeting. For those of you that don't know me, Kurt Harris, been an employee at Jump River Electric since 2005, when I was actually hired as a temporary employee at that time. So I guess here I am today, but I just would like to thank the board for the opportunity to manage this co-op. I guess just for all the members, I'm a member as well, so decisions made with management will definitely have the members' interest. That was the priority. So the LCO update. You guys have been hearing about the LCO for years now, so I just wanted to give you an update of where we're at with that. We had a prior contractor hired to do the surveying on LCO. Come to find out, the surveyor came to us and told us they were not going to be able to complete the survey. The numbers they had given us as far as how much of the survey to complete was inaccurate. So I guess needless to say, we are starting over, but I feel we're going down a better path with what we have going. So what we have proceeded with now is we have hired Dairyland Power Cooperative, our GMT, to do the surveying. They have surveyors on staff. It's progressing nicely. They actually have consent letters, permission to start surveying, which they will start next week. They gave us a timeline. They're hoping, if all goes well, they will have the surveys complete by end of summer, which is great news for Jump River Electric, great news to, I guess, get this resolved and behind us. I feel we're in good hands with Dairyland. We've had good feedback from the LCO. They are very appreciative of the Dairyland employees. They're working very well together, and I think Dairyland is a great organization. So the resolution, I guess you're probably asking, that's the number one question, what is the resolution? I guess the resolution starts with the completed surveys. Once the surveys are complete, we can move forward with getting easements and proceed that way. But the key to a resolution is the surveys, which Dairyland is starting next week and have an end of summer timeline built into that is what they're hoping for. So another thing we are up to, GIS updates. About 3 or 4 years ago, we switched from paper CAD maps to GIS maps. So everything is computerized, we do no more paper. The service orders out to the crew is all paperless through iPads. So with the GIS updates, we feel it's going to bring benefits that for our guys out in the field staking, they know where all the underground junction boxes is. We can send this data to emergency services so they know where our service territory is. There'll just be a benefit when it's complete. So we are going to incorporate, when Dairyland has the survey data done on LCO, they're going to give us all those shape files so we can just import them into our mapping so we don't have to, I guess, double spend money on that. Dairyland's, we're hiring them to do it so we can use their data. We can import that into our maps and get double use out of that. Our crews are also out doing field inventory. Some of you may have seen them out and about, but they're out inspecting every underground cabinet, GPSing that as well, and then they bring that data back and we plot it on the maps at the office. So it's just going forward, we'll actually know what we have out in the field and be able to look at the map and know what's out there. Next. Vegetation management. Some of you have heard we were part of Badger Unified, which was a cooperative-based vegetation management contractor. A group of us co-ops owned Badger Unified. We were approached, I guess, late last year about an offer to sell out of that. So with that being said, the board of Badger Unified, which us, the managers, served on from the co-ops that owned it, we decided to sell out of it. We lost a few partners years ago, some big cooperatives that were part of it, and we just weren't sustaining the margins and stuff when some of our bigger cooperatives that were part of it dropped out of it. So we were approached by Zeeley's Tree Service, and the deal was finalized the end of last year that we sold Badger Unified to Zeeley's Tree Service. So with that, we signed a contract with Zeeley's Tree Service to do our brushing over the next 4 years. It has built-in percent increases, so they can't, so it's built in, so we do have some protection that way. So Zeeley's has been doing our brushing for us now lately, and are doing a fantastic job with that. With that being said, the last couple of years, we have increased the budget. The board approved to do so. With that thought, we just want to be more proactive for you, the members, to increase reliability and get us on a better cycle so we can cut down on our outage times and number of outages. Line maintenance, that's another big thing we've been hitting on over the course of the last year. We're doing PCB testing on all transformers based on the manufacturer's specifications. So you may have seen the crews out, up in the bucket taking PCB, the oil samples out of the transformers. And then at the same time, you'll see they'll put a plastic wrap around the pole as a squirrel protection to also reduce the number of outages. That's between trees and animal contacts, those are our two main causes of outages. So we're trying to be really proactive and see if we can't, improve reliability to you. And then infrastructure improvements. Go to the next slide. You may be asking what that is. So infrastructure improvements would be rebuilding lines, replacing underground cable, changing poles. We're coming up with a schedule to do that. So what this graph would represent is the blue and the orange combined are our total utility plant value. So you'll see it's about $55 million worth of utility plant we have out there, which is our poles, wires, everything out in the field. And the orange there for 2021, we replaced $1.8 million worth of that infrastructure. I guess what that means is we're replacing about between anywhere from 2 to 4% per year of the infrastructure that is out in place. So the cost of that keeps going up with inflation. I'm sure you all have heard about the supply chain issues. So, but that is what we're trying to do, is basically replace 3% of that plant out there per year, just to keep improving reliability, reduce our line loss, and just, improve service to our members. So I guess probably the most important topic for me coming from operations would be safety. We are part of the RESAP program, which is the Rural Electric Safety Achievement Program. That's an NRECA national program where we are held to higher standards. They come every 3 years for an on-site visit, go through the shops, they go out with the crew to make sure we are following all standards to be met. In 1965, Jump River Electric was actually the first co-op in Wisconsin to be accredited. We have continued that benchmark ever since. So, a huge shout out to the employees for that. They are the ones that make that happen. We are at 88,301 hours worked by employees without a lost time accident. So I just want to again thank the employees for working efficiently for the members, but yet doing it in a safe fashion. So we are up for some milestone anniversaries this year. Joe Donlin, he is our line superintendent up in Hayward. He is working today up there. But Joe Donlin has worked 20 years at Jump River Electric without a lost time accident. Kevin Wright, who is a lineman out of our Hannibal shop, he is in the same boat. He has worked 20 years here at Jump River Electric with no lost time accidents. And Denise Zimmer, as many of you know, she is also a 20-year employee here with no lost time accidents. Then we also have Marcus Olesiak, who is a journeyman lineman out of our Ladysmith office. He has 5 years now at Jump River Electric with no lost time accidents. He is in the back. And then most of you probably know Tammy Bloomer. She is our billing clerk. She also has 5 years with no lost time accidents. Next. Also, there's been a lot of new changes at the cooperative, people retiring, hiring new employees. So we have some graduates this year. Rowdy Kachiver is a lineman out of our Ladysmith office. He has successfully completed his line worker apprenticeship and is now a journeyman lineman for Jump River Electric. He is in the back room. And Jeff Kurtzels, who is not present today, but he used to be our appliance repairman and like load management. He is now being we are no longer in the appliance sales, he is doing our load management and also our meter technician. So we just sent him through a 3-year metering apprenticeship and he has successfully completed that. So. Then we have one promotion to announce. With my acceptance of the general manager role here, we filled the operations manager, my previous position, and that is Jordan Barrett. He's in the back of the room. He was a journeyman lineman up in our Hayward office. He moved down to Ladysmith here and accepted the role as operations manager. Then we have a few new hires with some of the retirees. Our CSR, as many of you know in Hayward, Gail retired at the end of the year. So we have a great new hire on board, Lee, who is present in Hayward. She is doing a fantastic job up there in Hayward. And she is definitely a great asset for us, Jump River Electric, to have her there. She's just very good with the members, very professional. So yeah, Lee Henning is our new CSR out of our Hayward office. And then with Jordan's promotion of him coming down to our Ladysmith here, we were searching for either a journeyman lineman or an advanced apprentice just to help the small crew in Hayward because they only would have 2 journeymen otherwise. So we were very fortunate. We got Ben Valentine, who is just completed his 3rd year of apprenticeship and has 1 more to go through Jump River. So we won't have to wait too long before we have another journeyman up in our Hayward office. So with that, I'd like to announce John Carr from Dairyland. John is currently Vice President of Strategic Growth for Dairyland Power Cooperative in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where he's responsible for resource and energy planning, marketing, wholesale load growth, and mergers and acquisitions growth. John has been with Dairyland since May of 2008. Prior to joining Dairyland, John spent 10 years working for Alliant Energy in Madison, Wisconsin, where he held various positions primarily involved in fuel procurement and MISO market opportunities. So it's all you, John.
Thanks, that's a long list. I didn't realize it was that big. Wow. Thanks, it's great to be with you all here this morning. And before I begin, originally Brent Bridge, our CEO, was scheduled to be here, and he sends his apologies. Brent had some minor health issues come up that have prevented him from traveling this morning, but he sends his best wishes. Before I begin, I want to make sure we congratulate Kurt on your new role. Congratulations, and thanks to Mike Schaefer on behalf of Dairyland for your dedication and service to electric cooperatives through the years. We really appreciate it. Let's give a hand for these guys. I can't tell if my slides are up or wait. Oh, I can't see them. I'll have to walk out. I might do that. Still working? Good? Okay. I'm going to walk out here. So, again, Brent Bridge wanted to make sure that he sends his thanks and gratitude. As a new CEO here at Dairyland, working with the members, and you'll hear us talk here in a moment, this is a people business. We produce and deliver electricity, but this is about people, and it's about you, the members. Next slide, please. So the board at Dairyland has given Brent one goal, sustainability. And Brent has turned that into 4 different categories that we need to meet in order to be sustainable. So safe, reliable, and predictable delivery of electricity, number 1. Same shared goal that you guys have here, and I commend you on your record. We heard some of those records in the individuals here today. Congratulations. Cost competitive. It's critical that as your wholesale provider, we maintain low rates and we're competitive. We understand the impact that increases have on you and your lives. Methodically lowering our carbon footprint. We hear a lot from the utilities around us about their plans to reduce carbon intensity. Dairyland is also on that path, but we'll talk about slow and methodical in getting there. And as I said earlier, we are in the people business. This is producing electricity, but it's about the people and the lives we serve. Next slide. So I wanted to talk about some of the industry trends and headwinds that we're seeing out there in the electric utility industry. Next slide. So Dairyland is a member of the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator. That's a mouthful. It's a large power pool. You can see on the map our service territory, and you can see the MISO service territory. What is MISO? It's a lot of other utilities that runs from the Canadian border down into the Gulf Coast. And all these utilities have pulled together their transmission and generation assets, and MISO serves like an air traffic controller, moving electricity and dispatching electricity from power generators when it's economic. So why is Dairyland in this market? What does this do for us? In effect, what it allows us to do is, if it's economic for us to purchase energy from somebody else, other than producing it on our own to meet your needs, we have that opportunity. If we have excess electricity that we can sell and earn money that you don't need, excess power that we can move into the market, we can use that market to do so. We think this market has been beneficial for Dairyland and its members. Again, it gives us larger access to generation resources and low cost. Next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about MISO's recent perspective on what's going on in the industry. And what we're seeing out there is a lot of coal unit retirements. We talk about the move to reduce carbon intensity, which is very important. We think it's important to Darrowland. But what MISO has flagged here for us, and you can see it in the blue box, is the impact of these retirements, of coal units in particular, and then you add in now replacing it with intermittent wind and solar. MISO's been raising the warning flag to say, we're going to have challenges. Those coal units, we have the ability to turn them up or down, and they were there during the winter. If we're replacing them with intermittent wind and solar, the likelihood of grid emergencies during extreme weather is higher. And MISO's raising that warning flag for us. Next slide. So planning for the future. This is MISO's take on where things are going. And on the left there you can see the current generating mix. And you can see that roughly 67% of the energy today is fossil fuels. And what MISO shows is if we look out to the year 2040, that you'll still see about 31% fossil fuel. That's not zero carbon by my math. It doesn't get us there. It reduces the CO2 intensity, but it's not zero. So again, MISO is saying for them to be able to manage that grid, they still see the need for fossil fuel resources going forward. Next slide. So I wanted to use a real life example. This is 2 days that we picked. You can see on the left there, that's actually a pretty moderate weather day. And it's looking at the generation mix in this whole MISO footprint. So what was supplying the energy within that large footprint from Canada to the Gulf? And what you can see is even on that day, fossil fuel was 57% of the energy mix. So when I say fossil fuel, coal and natural gas. What about those days that we experience up here, where it's 19 below zero, and we're in February, and we need to have that power just to survive in this part of the world? You can see on that day, oh, sorry if we back up. On that day, almost 80% of the energy supplying the upper Midwest and MISO was fossil fuel. So I asked the question, how do we, in the course of 1 or 2 decades, replace that? How do we get rid of it? How do we reduce our CO2 intensity? Next slide. So there's a lot here in this slide. Let me just set the stage that what we're trying to calculate here is if we were to replace all fossil fuels with wind, how much wind would we need? Next slide. The equivalent of 2 Californias. That much land. So again, one of the challenges with solar or with wind is how much land impact it has. Let alone the feasibility of the intermittent, right? Wind comes and goes, but just the land impact of trying to replace all of that fossil fuel with wind. Just an example here. Next slide. So what is Darrowland doing? What is our plan? What is our goal? Next slide. So this shows a timeline I walked. This is our actual CO2 emissions from our power plants that we operate. And if you start over in the left, this is 2005 levels. And what we do is walk through essentially changes in our generation resource portfolio. So in terms of retiring generators, adding new generators in our sources. And where you can see is where Genoa retired in 2021, the big drop. And it takes us down quite a bit. And then where the dots are, that's our plan. So you can see we add Badger State Solar. That's a large solar facility coming on in eastern Wisconsin in 2024. And then we have another 180 megawatts of split 50-50 wind and solar coming in later. All in all, this gets us to a 50% reduction in CO2 intensity and total emissions. Again, measured, thoughtful reduction to make sure reliability is still there. Next slide. So Darylyn's current energy mix. On the left, you see where we stand today. Roughly 25% renewable, and the balance is 50-50 between coal and natural gas. And what you can see in 2031, we're equal parts. 1/3 renewable, 1/3 coal, 1/3 natural gas. That is our plan going forward to meet those reductions that we showed. Next slide. So some of the renewable generation resources. Utility scale solar, 25 megawatts that we worked with all of our co-ops to put in place here several years ago. That is up and running. We talked about the Badger State facility coming on in 2024, 149 megawatts. Wind, you can see a long list there of wind facilities that we're currently in, scattered through the upper Midwest, and then the landfill gas facilities that we operate. Next slide, please. So RockGen Energy Center. We talked about the Genoa coal plant retirement. And when Darylyn made that retirement, we had to find a way to replace that capacity and energy. We acquired the RockGen facility, which sits just southeast of Madison. This resulted in a 50% reduction in the CO2 that we were getting with Genoa, and it's helped us keep those rates, keep those costs flat. Next slide. We're still working on the Mangy Trail Energy Center. This is a natural gas facility planned for Superior, Wisconsin. Planned to come online in 2026 to 2027. Working through the final stages of getting permits in place to begin construction, set for later this summer. That facility is a partnership with Minnesota Power and Basin Electric. Darylyn will be the 50% owner in that facility. Next slide. We recently announced plans to explore nuclear power generation. A technology called small modular reactors. This is not the same as what you know today, the large nuclear plants. These are smaller modular reactors. Again, we're exploring this technology. There has been no commitment made to build or put anything in, but we believe we owe it to the members to explore this. In our mind, if we're serious about CO2 reduction, nuclear power has to be part of the future. Next slide. So, Darylyn, adding it all up, we will take a balanced approach, measured, in terms of reducing CO2. We can't risk reliability in this part of the country, in particular in winter. Our investment is trending towards more renewables, adding more wind, adding more solar. But again, we talk about the balance, making sure that innovation drives this transition, but not moving so fast that we jeopardize reliability. So it's really, in our mind, an all of the above approach. There's not one simple solution. You've heard in the past some talking about all of the above, and we believe we are delivering on all of the above. I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions. I think that was my last slide. Yes, it was. So we'll open it up if there's any questions or if we want to take questions as a whole. But that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
So before the meeting moves to questions and comments, we're going to ask the chair of the election inspectors, Gene Dixon, to report the results.
Okay, first thing we would do when we get up here is elect a chairperson, and I think the rest misunderstood my intention since I was the only one with a yardstick up here. But anyhow, for the 2022 elections, Myron Brooks for District 2 was unopposed with 292 votes, so he'd move on as director. And District 7, Jason Weaver, unopposed, had 283 votes, he'll be also director. And District 8, Walter Kruk, with 284 votes unopposed, will also move on as director. And for the approval of the 2021 annual meeting minutes, for approval was 299 votes against 15. So the minutes will be approved for 2021. So, and that I guess is the results of our election. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Just a reminder that it's been the practice to retain all of the ballots for a 30-day period following adjournment of the annual meeting, and then to destroy them, not to retain them any longer, unless you give us any different direction today. So, thank you. Kurt, Mike, Myron? Yeah. So now we
Are there any questions from the crowd?
This is for Mr. Carr from Jerry. Why did you close that plant in the crop?
Please bring it up, Mike.
Okay, I'm Tom Gavin from Tony, Wisconsin, W6508 Point Road. Why did you close the plant, basically? What was the real reason at La Crosse?
Yeah, the question, just to restate, was why did we close the Genoa coal-fired power plant? And difficult decision, for sure. That facility housed 80 employees, good-paying jobs in the La Crosse area. As we did the evaluation looking at Genoa, to continue operation would have required significant additional capital investment. It was 52 years old, and the investment we looked at compared to replacing it with other sources, in this case the RockGen Energy Center, it was a cost-effective move for us to make that change. So bottom line at the time was the age of the facility, the investment required to continue operation, and lower cost options that were available. But good question, thank you.
But the one in eastern Wisconsin, that's the LP gas, natural gas, correct?
Correct. The RockGen Energy Center is a natural gas facility.
Which is cheaper per kilowatt to produce, coal or natural gas?
Question was which is cheaper, coal or natural gas, and that will vary over time when we looked at the fixed costs. So long run, we believe the natural gas option is lower cost.
Is this a plant that you bought that was brand new, that was just put into production, or is it steel and Paul to pay Mary? You know what I'm getting at? You replaced it with one, but did somebody else lose power generation then?
Could you ask the question again? I'm not
Well,
sure.
what I'm getting at, you replaced it with a power plant. Was that a brand new power plant? Or was it one that was producing power for somebody else?
Okay, I understand. So the question was it a new power plant? No. When Darylyn purchased it, it was 20 years old. And I should pause. Darylyn had been under contract to purchase the output from that facility. When we acquired it, and a portion of the facility. When we acquired it, we took the full output. So it is a existing power plant, but now serving Darylyn's needs.
Oh, that's my only reason for asking is you actually lost available electricity even though you purchased another plant. And in these times, the chances of brownouts, was it a wise decision to close that coal plant? And how dirty was that coal plant compared to other companies' coal plants?
Yeah, again, in our view, we made the best long-term decision in the members' interest to manage costs and maintain reliability.
So you think you're ahead of the game now? I mean, or do you have more electricity available right now than you did before you closed the coal plant?
We do have more capacity available today, yes.
And John, isn't there political pressure to close coal plants?
Question was, is there political pressure to close coal plants? Certainly. It's back to the reducing CO2. That's one of the points, and Jane, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the risks in continuing in coal, it's a hidden risk, that if there would be a carbon tax put in place, that would be an immediate cost impact to the members. So, fair point. And I do appreciate your questions. They're valid. It was a very difficult decision that we went through as the executive team and the board. So, fair question.
So was it violating any current EPA rules keeping that plant open though?
No.
Okay, it just doesn't make sense to me, but that's why I asked. Thank you.
I think because of the political pressure to close coal plants, can you maybe go forward on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's the political and social pressure to reduce CO2 is real.
Well, I know there's a lot of pressure, but you don't shut something down because of pressure when your customers depend on it. Is there a chance of brownouts now because of that?
I wouldn't think in just that specific plant, but at some level, again, and I respect your comments today. Again, in Darylyn's opinion, and analysis, if we had went forward, the risk we had was higher costs to serve your needs. And so we're trying to balance those needs. And I do appreciate your comments.
Thank you, and I hope it was the right decision. I don't think it was, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
John, can you explain a little bit what happened in Texas and why, the whole state basically lost the power?
And what safeguards do we have in place that that's not going to happen here?
Yeah, the question was what happened in Texas February of last year in terms of the wholesale power meltdown and outages and rolling blackouts. And it was, number one cause was really very extreme weather and a system that was not designed or built to handle extreme weather. The difference for us in this part of the world is that our facilities are winterized. So for example, our natural gas facilities, we also have dual fuel capability. So the RockGen facility that we acquired, if natural gas would become unavailable, it has fuel oil on site that we can operate on. So it's got a dual fuel capability that it will be there during extreme weather. Wind turbines iced up in that part of the country. They weren't designed really to handle that weather. In this part of the country, they use de-icing systems to make sure those turbines roll. So long and short of it, it was really Texas didn't have the winterization in place, and the extreme weather created kind of a cascading event. Thanks.
Tim Smith, County Road 8, East Smith. I guess it's more of a statement. I mean, as co-ops go, we've got a lot of political pressure. We can push back on these stupid mandates. I'm sick of the green agenda being rammed down my throat in my electric co-op magazine and everywhere else for that matter. Instead of rolling over and playing dead and kissing up to the politicians, let's start pushing back on them and keeping those coal plants. Clean them up if you have to.
Appreciate your remarks, and I will say at this point in time, as we look at our current coal plants, JPM, there are no plans to retire JPM. So, thanks for your remarks.
My question's for Kurt, probably. I was wondering if at the off-peak rates and stuff, does that come with power control, meter controls, or in that, do the new meters actually measure that, or?
So the new metering system is capable of doing that. It breaks down the hours of usage. So if we introduce it, it'd be just it wouldn't be a mandatory rate, it would just be an option for the members. But it would be in your control to install timers on you know, your appliances if you didn't want them to turn on during the peak to save money.
Okay.
I wanted to add.
I wanted to just add a little bit to that we instituted that over at Taylor Electric before I had left there. And the beauty of the time and use rate is that the members decide when and how much power they're going to use. So like Kurt said, you want to put a time clock on your water heater to make sure it avoids those peak periods. That's the easy one. The other one is, you know, how do you rearrange your lifestyle to work around those hours? And again, it just comes down to how do you make those lifestyle changes? And if you absolutely need some air conditioning, you can turn it on. Just realize during that day, you're gonna end up paying a little bit more for it too, so.
Yeah, well, that was my question was, you know, so you'd have to put a timer on the air. You'd have to put a timer on the air conditioner also, or like on the electric dryer, or?
You decide. If you wanna go pull your main breaker every day at this time and shut everything on, you're welcome to do it at that rate.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we do use the dryer at night and whatever, and so, I mean.
Yeah, so in your case, you may be well on your way already doing things that would benefit you as far as getting on that rate. But anybody that makes a lifestyle change and changes their use pattern will not only benefit themselves, but also benefit the co-op and its wholesale rate because we'll avoid some more of those peak costs through dairy.
But mainly my question was, you know, do the meters actually measure when you're using it?
Oh yes, we can measure down in 15-minute increments, I believe right now, so.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay, good. Just because I know there's participation up in Hayward as well, I did get one question forwarded to me already from Kathy Overman up there, wanting to know if Jump River Electric has received any grants for the broadband program. And at this point, we have not. For my understanding, for any grants that are out there, you need to have a program already in place and a plan already in place to apply for something for a certain specific area. So that's why we're trying to bring these partners together. We know we can't do it alone. Maybe we can work with Dairyland. Maybe the county wants to help in some of these areas that are underserved, or some of these internet service providers. If we can help provide some of the backbone to get the internet, the fiber out there, maybe that'll work with us. So that's our thrust at this point. We know that the amounts of grants are increasing like crazy out there, so the sooner we can get something organized, maybe even better for the co-op and its members. So. Other questions?
Kurt, I've got a question for you. Going digital sounds great and everything, but this day of more hacking going on, that's literally a terrible idea. Are you guys keeping track of the paper records as well? Because just even 2 months ago, 3 countries in Central Asia were hacked and went down with the power for the majority of these countries. And it's going to hit us. It's going to hit us very soon.
Yeah, we are going mostly paperless stuff, but we have backup upon backup. We have separate servers, so if one server does get hacked, we'll still have access through another server, so they can't totally wipe out our system and our member records. But it's an ongoing process. NRECA, they are holding course upon course and very proactive about the cybersecurity portion, but we do have multiple backups in place so we don't lose it if something were to occur.
Robert Ringstead from town of Thornapple. I'm directed towards Dairyland Power, the gentleman there. Is there any consideration into getting energy from our partners in MISO from Manitoba Hydro? Manitoba Hydro is in the process, a building process of 11 hydro plants. 3 are completed. 2 DC lines are coming down on the east side of Lake Manitoba at our Lake Winnipeg at the present time. And we have a substation on Arrowhead Weston that we pushed real hard for, at Stone Lake, right in the middle practically of our co-op. And I just wonder, for security reasons, if we can't have some kind of a contract or something with Manitoba Hydro, that they're building the plants for us, not for them. It's coming our way. Right now, they come right to Midway up at Duluth. And so I don't know why maybe we don't study that a little bit, because the 7 other generating plants means more and more and more of hydro, of cheap hydro. Might be something for Dairyland Power to consider. They're partners in MISO.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate your remarks, and actually Dairyland already does have one small contract in place with Manitoba Hydro, and we have been in regular negotiations with them. Certainly something that we're considering as part of that lower CO2 future. Didn't show it in the plans, but you're absolutely right. The development up there, Keesek Dam, Nelson River Hydro Development, the DC line, does absolutely present a very real opportunity for us that we are monitoring. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Jack Peterson from Tony Dude. I was wondering about the macro picture of the global warming. We're told it's an existential problem, and to some degree, I'm sure it is. But if the United States puts in a carbon tax, and we do a lot to reduce our carbon footprint, while China, with over 1 billion people, and India, over 1 billion people, are among the biggest polluters in the world, probably throw Russia in there too, and other countries. Is this going to put the United States at a competitive disadvantage as far as cost of energy and cost of our products and exports and so forth? If we do what we can to reduce our carbon footprint while much of the rest of the world doesn't, are we going to be put at a disadvantage? I just wanted your opinion on that.
Yeah, appreciate the remarks, and that's obviously a front center debate in national politics, state, regional politics for sure. I do agree that at some level, that if we're giving up competitive advantage overseas globally, that doesn't serve the United States well. I think we have to be thoughtful. That's why we're using the term thoughtful and measured in the approach. And again, as we've shown here, we don't believe that you can just turn and avoid fossil fuels tomorrow. That's not wise policy in our view. Thoughtful and measured, how we work through those things and making sure that we can be competitive in that global market are key. And I appreciate your remarks.
I just kind of had a question about the electric vehicles. When we were talking about those, of like charging stations and that, is that proposed or thought about to be an ongoing, every member pays something on every electric bill?
So no, the charging stations would be per member basis. There is incentives that we offer through Dairyland, we offer, but it would be just the member's choice. You don't have to get an electric vehicle, but if you do, there is very good rebates and incentives on purchasing the charger that would allow you to charge it. Not every member has to make that decision and switch to an electric vehicle, and so it'd be just per member basis.
Sue Van Dorn from Tony. We looked at our May newsletter, and there was a couple of articles in here we had a question about. Under news brief, who submits these articles to be printed in our magazine? Anybody know who submits the articles for the news brief?
Those would be decided and submitted through the statewide association of the Wisconsin Electric Cooperative Association in Madison, who prints basically the magazine, and Denise and the staff supply materials that go on the inside of that, the center pages for specific to Jump River.
I guess our question is one article in here that talks about budget shifts, priorities to defense and law enforcement. And it talks about President Biden's $5.7 trillion budget for 2023 and how it's fiscally responsible. How can we have that article in this when the federal government doesn't even bring in $4 trillion a year, that this is physically responsible? And I know everybody's glad because they are pushing money toward green energy and everything else, but we, the customers of Jump River Electric and the taxpayers across the country, don't have $5.7 trillion to give to the government to spend. I would like to know that sometimes maybe an article that's a little more center or realistic is printed along with this, so both sides are represented, please.
Appreciate that, and I would urge you to write a letter specifically to WECA that their address should be in that magazine, or we can get that for you, and we could carry that message as well on behalf of you from our annual meeting as well, so appreciate that.
I want to follow up that train of thought too with Darylyn about the article of the nuclear reactors and just the fake numbers from Chernobyl. I've been to Chernobyl. I know people who died in Chernobyl. And you said 2 people died, and then afterwards 29 people died, and it has no birth defects. What a bunch of garbage. What are you doing printing that kind of trash in our magazine? Even just this last month, the Russians who dug in trenches around Chernobyl are dying right now from the radiation poisoning. So before you start printing things, you better do some research.
So I appreciate the comments, and I want to be clear that it was Wisconsin Electric Cooperative Association. I'm not sure that those were Darylyn's.
It was your CEO.
Okay. We'll take the news, we'll take that.
I wish he was here.
Okay. Appreciate the comments.
I got one more question. There's another article in here about global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it. It looks like a snippet out of the New York Times. The United States has, where's that piece of paper? I mean, as far as the global, United States, what do they put out for carbon footprint percentage-wise compared to the rest of the countries in this whole world? Because the Earth is 70% water, 30% land. The United States takes up 2% of that land, and we have 4% of the population of the world. Okay? What's our carbon footprint compared to Russia, China, and all these other places? And you're writing in your magazine, or our magazine, about we, but they don't say they. I believe the United States of America is a lot cleaner carbon footprint than all these other countries. That's why we got out of Paris Climate Accord, because it was a waste of our money to help these other countries that didn't have to do nothing for another 15 years. So what's our percentage, do you know?
Question was, what's the U.S. percentage of CO2 emissions?
Yes.
I don't have that answer. We could look at that. I don't have that answer here today.
You mentioned earlier on about this LCO project that you have going, and that the survey done wasn't up to your standards or fell below what you were expecting, and now Dairyland is doing the survey. What exactly is the LCO project?
So the LCO would be the tribal reservation that we serve up in our Hayward area. Our easements have expired up there, so therefore there is trespass allocations, due to invalid easements. So yeah, the prior surveyor was hired a couple years ago and we're supposed to have a completion. They did not even come close to completing the project. The good news for the members here is that they did not try to charge us anything for the past work they did do, so we did not pay them a dime. But the only downfall is it has greatly delayed a resolution to this.
Okay, seeing no more hands, confirm that it looks like we've answered the questions from Hayward as well, so I guess we're ready to move on and complete this annual meeting. I guess we're up to the point of the prize drawing, so again, you need to be present, and that includes either at Hayward or here, so as we draw the prizes, we'll award those, and let us know that you're present so we can make sure that we're following that. So we have an electronic means of randomly drawing from the members that are present. So directors and employees are not eligible, even if they're members. So we will get this going, and since we're doing this electronically, we had some discussion about which prize to draw first. We usually like to draw the big prize first and hold that. So, but since everybody's going to see this, we're going to draw that big prize first, so everybody has a chance at the $500, and go from there. So tell me when you're ready. Oh, it might be 2 minutes. So. Oh yeah.
Is there any new business? You probably answered everybody's questions already. Microphone down there.
Lauren again, Tony, somebody brought it to my attention this morning that there was an error listed in the minutes from last year's meeting. I was under the assumption we would have a time to say approve, disapprove of the minutes. Apparently at the beginning of the meeting, it said the meeting was held in the town of Ladysmith, but I believe it's the city of Ladysmith was the correction, but I was just wondering if there was a way to change the program so that next year you can ask for approval of the minutes at the meeting, so if somebody has corrections, they can give them to you.
Thank you for raising the point of the incorrect reference and the process. What you've described is the way it always used to work until we did not achieve a quorum at the 2020 and again the 2021 annual meeting. So after not getting a quorum in 2020, it was decided last year that in the absentee ballots that we would include a request to approve the 2019 and 2020 annual meeting minutes. That was done last year, and the process was continued this year. Hopefully, we will not have the same challenge to get a quorum at these annual meetings in the future, And so the hope is, and we will absolutely take your suggestion into account. But the hope is that we can go back to the traditional practice and present this year's draft minutes at this meeting in person, ask if there are any additions or corrections, and then ask for a vote, and not include that in the absentee and electronic ballot process. The problem this year is, since it was requested that that be included in the ballot by statute, once even a single absentee ballot is submitted, whatever the subject of the ballot is cannot be modified at the meeting. But we will see that that is fixed going forward. Great suggestion, thank you.
Any other unfinished business?
This really isn't an issue to bring up separately, but listening to the comments and questions that we've had, I think I can generalize a lot of their concern is that I did some research, on and on. You go on the internet and you try to find out what the issues are with the ozone over the South Pole and the North Pole, and you find that most of the information you get has an agenda. And I think that's what some of the folks are noticing here in our magazine, is that some of the articles have an agenda other than just giving facts and the way things look in the future for our co-ops, So, and I think that's what their concern is that our magazine, some of the articles have an agenda other than for the co-op members, So, and I know who to write and who to corner on this, so I think that will be my job to do, is to talk to him and see if he can help curb some of this, because some of this stuff is kind of out of place, or if it is in place that it should be here, we should have a couple of different opinions instead of just one opinion on those things. There was things in this magazine that really bothered me too, but it just kind of dead ends and you don't have any recourse. Another thing that wasn't mentioned is when you see about cyber attack, and I can say something that will make some of us feel better, but here what was written in here is that we seem to be losing control. When it comes to malware within the system that we have to be concerned about, there's just a sentence in here that says, a court order allows the FBI to remove the malware even if from private computer networks and sometimes without the company's knowledge. Well, that doesn't sound like a free country. And this was raising attention here from some of our members, The good thing is I did hear, concerns about if we have a cyber attack on the MISO market or something like that. I had talked to and asked Brett Ridge at a meeting we had a couple months ago, and I asked about that, and I mentioned the oil line that we had in the southeastern part of the country that was shut down for a while because of a cyber attack. And I said, is that what's going to happen with the MISO market and us here, or can we manually run that? And he said, I know what you're talking about. I believe that we have the personnel that can go out there and manually manipulate the power going from here to there and not have the issues they had with the oil line down there. So that gives me a little bit of faith that we have people within Darylyn Power that think like some of us here, the members of our co-op. Thank you.
Jane Wright, director of Jump River. And although we may not be perfect, and there's many things that can go wrong, whether they do or not, we're all trying to do our best here. And I think we have probably, since I've been on this board, I can honestly say, this is one of the most proactive and people of integrity that I've ever worked with on this board, and I can say the same for Darylyn Power. All it is good people trying to do the right thing for all of our members. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak? We got the raffle going yet? One thing we learn in classes about cyber attacks is the ransom that they charge to get it going again is usually a little bit less than what it would cost you to fight it. So that's, we got it all pretty much planned out how to get their money.
Okay, are we ready for this drawing? There's the wheel, okay. Everybody's name is on there, correct? For members that are present. Okay, it's like magic. Let's go for the $500 drawing. Present, must be present, so we're gonna make sure. I'm in contact with Jennifer up in Hayward, so we'll find out if somebody from up there is chosen. Sharon Dykus. Is she here? Oh, she's waving in the back there, so congratulations. You'll receive a $500 entry credit over the next several months. Okay, so now we have 5 $100 credits to give out. So let's spin that wheel again. Barbara Roos. Barbara here? Barbara? Is Barbara in Hayward? Hayward, I just got confirmation. Okay, congratulations, Barbara. She was there. Go for number 2 on the $100 energy credit. Tim Smith. Tim, right here. Tim Smith. Congratulations, Tim. There's number 2 on the $100. Let's go for number 3. Gary Perkett. Gary's in the back. I see his hand raised. Okay. Congratulations. That was energy credit number 3. 2 more times yet. 2 more chances for a $100 energy credit. Gerald Overman. You gotta get confirmation that Gerald is still up in Hayward. Yep. There, Kathy Overman is represented there. She was the one that said okay, 1 more chance for everyone that's present. Bruce, that Jim? I heard somebody say, that's us. Okay, congratulations, let's see your hand up. Good deal. Well, this has been the best part of my service here, I guess, to give away some money back to the members. And I must say, I feel that our cooperative is in great hands being passed off to Kurt here, so thank you for allowing me to be a part of your day. And I guess is there a wrap up for the chairman here to take care of?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Is there any objections to it?